Save yourself.
What?
I'm a menace to anything I touch. The Surgeon General's warning should be tattooed across my forehead. Walter Fielding is dangerous to your health. Don't touch him. Save yourself.
I'm going to help you.
You have a gun?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and just a few short months ago, there were people speculating that maybe Disney was going to buy DC Comics from AT&T, and my, how the times have changed, how the tables have turned. Disney's not in good shape right now, and here to talk with me about that is Kneon from Clownfish TV. So an insider with Disney. You cover the topic a lot on your channel, and I knew there'd be nobody else better to bring a perspective to this conversation.
Oh, thanks. My wife and I, we worked in and around Disney for years. We professionally ran a theme park blog. We were on Disney's approved media list, worked on Disney comics for like 15 years. We know a lot of people in and around the company. Don't know if we're the most qualified people to give opinions, but I would like to think we have a basic idea how the company thinks and operates. And we have been covering it, and it's shocking to see them fall as far as they have, as quickly as they have.
Yes, because when you think about Disney, you're like, oh, well, it's a diverse company, but apparently it's really not. It's all entertainment.
Yeah, everything they do depends on crowds, doesn't it? Movie theaters, theme parks, cruise line. They don't have a telecommunications company propping them up like Universal and Warner Brothers. Yeah,
so you got that AT&T money. People are still using the internet. They're still using their phones. People are relying on communications right now, but they can't go to theme parks and things like that. So Disney is just getting hammered right now, and Disney Plus is kind of a big part about that should be the thing that kind of maybe keeps them afloat, but it almost feels like they maybe rolled it out too fast, or maybe they weren't ready for this, because I believe the projections were that between Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, Disney were going to run a $3.9 billion loss for 2019. Yeah. That was going to jump up to $4.9 billion this year, with Disney Plus accounting for like $2.5 billion of that as they're rolling it out. And it was never actually intended to start making money until 2024. And that's if everything went, kind of well. And it's not going well. All the production is stopped right now. They have basically no new content to roll out. I can't imagine it going worse for Disney Plus.
Yeah, I gotta tell you. And then look, I'm a fan of classic Disney, and there's a lot of cool stuff to watch. They open the vaults up. They got a lot of old Disney Channel shows and 80s shows and stuff. But I mean, for casual audiences, other than The Mandalorian, there's like nothing. I mean, it reminds me of a kind of a botched video game console launch where they launched a system with a lot of hoopla, and it had like one good game. And then you had to wait like a year for another good game to come out, another, AAA title to come out. But they banked on that one game. So it kind of reminds me of like the N64. They're like, hey, we got Mario 64, and Mario 64, you have to wait till Zelda comes out. And then things will start picking up. And that's kind of what's going on with Disney Plus. They're like, yeah, we got The Mandalorian and, Captain Marvel and some other stuff. But yeah, all these shows that they were going to, put into production in the pipeline, they're all halted because of the situation we can't talk about. And Disney they didn't plan. They jumped the gun. I think the reason they released Disney Plus when they released it was they were trying to kind of stake a claim first, and I think they overestimated how valuable the Disney brand actually is. I mean, a lot of people signed up for it, but they signed up for it because they expected, I think, all these Marvel shows and Star Wars shows and all this stuff, and it wasn't available at launch. And now they're like, oh yeah, we'll have a Marvel show in another year or so. That's not good enough for. Meanwhile, HBO Max is going to be coming out in another month or two, and they've already got. I mean, they're coming in guns blazing. Warner Brothers, they've got all kinds of content.
They have a ton of content, sitting in the bank just waiting to release. They're actually ready for launch. It's insanity that Disney jumped the gun like this. Now, they did beat projections as far as subscribers. They were projected to have 19 million by the end of this year, and they already had 28.6 million by early February. But I know a lot of people had already jumped off because The Mandalorian's over, and that number is also inflated because like Verizon customers all got a free year like promo out of it.
Yeah, that's Disney. Look, they're they tend to massage the numbers. They always want to give you the best look, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to talk about all the all the people who got free subscriptions. We don't know what the percentage actually is, but there were a lot of people who got Disney Plus as a promo, and there are a lot of people who I'm as I understand it are leaving because Mandalorian's over now, and there's no new content. Netflix, there's always something new. In fact, I think there's too much new. I mean, you turn on Netflix and you're like, oh, here's a whole nother series and a whole nother movie I've never heard of. And, what are you going to do? Nobody has enough time to watch everything. Whereas with Disney, it's like, if you're not an old head Disney fan or a Marvel fan or a Star Wars fan, there's nothing to watch. There really isn't.
I fully expect New Mutants will actually release on Disney Plus as like the premiere because they need new content. It sounded like Mulan was probably gonna kind of bomb anyway before all this happened.
Yeah,
Mulan has to feel like something that you throw on there. They might even have to consider putting Black Widow on there. That's not really a key to the MCU moving forward, since it's a prequel. Do you think they're gonna have to turn to some of these movies they already had in the bank that they've been, pushing the release date off and maybe move them onto Disney Plus just to keep the subscribers going?
Yeah, I don't know if they put Black Widow on. We've my wife and I have been talking about this. If they put Black Widow on Disney Plus, that shows how desperate Disney actually is. I mean, they'll bring it to Vudu or something first. Look what they did with Onward, but it was only like 2 weeks. It's like we're going to drop it on digital, and then 2 weeks later it's going to be for free on Disney Plus or whatever. But if they drop Black Widow, that means they are incredibly desperate because a Marvel movie is going to make bank. Mulan on the other hand,
100 million, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mulan, on the other hand, it doesn't seem like it's making anybody happy. I mean, I don't know. I can't talk about the quality of the film, but I mean, we've got all kinds of problems with, people had casting choices. They're not happy with the actress making the comment she made about Hong Kong. We've got, they're taking out key characters. They're changing. They took out the music. There's no Mushu. So it's Mulan, but it's not the Disney version of Mulan that most people were expecting. And it looks to me more like it's kind of a run-of-the-mill like martial arts historical movie that you find on Netflix or something. But it was designed for China, and the Chinese theaters are closed,
And there's this weird thing. You would have thought the Fox acquisition would have been the windfall for all of this, that backup content, all of this amazing, years worth of content ready-made to just put on there. And they're putting most of it on Hulu.
It doesn't even make sense. None of it makes sense. I mean, the fact they even paid $71 billion for Fox has got to be the worst.
They didn't even get the news channel.
They didn't even get the news channel. Yeah, like there's nothing. I'm sorry, there's nothing on Fox that's worth $71 billion. Even individual pieces of Fox, if you wanted to argue, that would be worth it, like The Simpsons or Aliens or whatever. You could pay a couple of $1 billion, get the whole thing. You do not need to pay $71 billion. They did it just so Comcast couldn't get it. Now Comcast is going to have the extra money because Disney burnt through their cash reserves to buy it and then some. They went into debt. They were only going to pay 50, I think it was 50 billion originally, and then Comcast got into a bidding war with them. They went up to 71 billion, and Iger didn't say no because he had to win. And now I think I think the Fox acquisition is going to be the kiss of death for Disney. They bid off way more than they can chew. They don't have their ducks in a row with the streaming stuff, really. Hulu was already, other people came up with Hulu. They built Hulu. That was, I think that was a Fox. That was a joint effort, wasn't it? Fox and,
and well, Disney owned part of it.
Yeah.
But, once they acquired Fox, they had the majority share. I believe it's 60 or 70%.
Yeah. Something like that. Comcast was in on it too. But that was a pre-existing thing. They could just kind of move in. And that's kind of Disney's, my own point of view is like, Disney at this point, they stopped being innovators and they started being the Borg, and they just go around, they kind of assimilate these companies, but they don't fundamentally understand how or what made the company special in the first place. Like, you buy a Lucasfilm, but if it doesn't come with George Lucas, it's not going to be the same thing. You buy the Henson Company, but obviously Jim Henson's no longer with us, but you can't do the same thing with the Muppets that Jim Henson did. And actually the Henson Company is still separate. The best thing they could do, my personal opinion with the Muppets, is sell it back to the actual, Henson family, because I think they would get it better than Disney. But again, that's another IP. They don't know what to do with it. They've got it. I mean, same with The Simpsons. What are you going to do with The Simpsons? Once the show wraps up, you're going to reboot The Simpsons, like a Disney-fied version of it in 10 or 15 years? That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
it just makes no sense to me that they would actually run concurrent competing streaming services. Now you have one audience, for Disney Plus, which, would be family and children. And then you have an older audience for Hulu. They should be on the same platform because, children have parents that want to watch content that isn't made for children.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I mean, we have Hulu. We've had Hulu for a while because they started doing live TV. So we just, cut the cord and, but now Hulu's creeping up because of Disney Plus rolling out. They jacked up Hulu. It's like $10 or $15 a month more than it was this time last year. And I imagine with Disney's financial problems, they're probably going to jack it up again because that's, one place where they're making revenue. But that never made sense to me because Netflix, look at Netflix. They've got content that runs a gamut from, preschool to, adult, and they just separate it out. They've got like a kids section or whatever, and they could do that with Disney. They could just be like, let's put on one thing. Here's live TV. Here's all of our Disney content. You can filter it by age group or whatever. But for some reason, they want to maintain two systems. And I think that's a waste of resources.
It's kind of crazy when you talk about Netflix. I don't think people realize just like, oh, you got 128 million subscribers. You must make a lot of money. Well, yeah. But I think they spent like $10 billion on new programming last year.
Yeah. Netflix, I mean, they were not doing so hot either because they were spending all this money, but they knew, hey, if Disney's coming and Warner's coming and everybody's nipping at our heels, we're going to have to ramp up our own content. Cause a lot of people said other than Stranger Things and a couple other shows, your original content wasn't that great. And now, I'm not saying all the stuff they're making now is great, but it does seem like overall it's gotten a little bit better. There's not as much crap on there, I guess, as there used to be, but they're going to have to really ramp it up too. And then you've got Amazon. Amazon's out there making original movies and stuff, and Jeff Bezos, he's got like infinite money.
It almost feels like 15 years ago when satellite phone was going to be a huge thing, and you had all these competing networks, and they all had to basically consolidate into like one company because it turned out the market just wasn't big enough for four of them. Now there's probably a market big enough for more than one streaming service, but I don't think the market's going to be able to support like 10 or 15 of them, just for entertainment. That's not including your ESPNs doing live sports and stuff like that. There's going to have some consolidation at some point. And you've got to imagine Disney Plus and Hulu are the first ones to have to start merging, right?
Yeah, I mean, because again, it's just the resources. Disney, on the other side of the situation we're dealing with now, the whole shutdowns, they're not going to have the resources, I don't think, to run two full-blown streaming services. You've already got the staff, just consolidate and just be like, here's the tab for the adult content and here's the tab for the children's content, or just make Disney Plus, the add-on for Hulu and push Hulu to everybody, and just Disney Plus is your add-on.
But it's kind of crazy. I think this might be a lot worse than people think because Disney basically has no income right now. And I believe they're actually borrowing money just for operating costs. Yeah. So, once the dust settles and everything clears, obviously not everybody's going to be willing to go to a theme park immediately because there's a lot of fear out there right now. But even once they start getting that money back, I don't think they're going to be able to resume all these productions at one time. I don't think it's going to be Captain Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and all these shows they're just going to be able to do them. Yeah, people aren't thinking about that because that's, we go out there and we, obviously spend time on like theme park boards and stuff and talking to people and everybody seems to be under the understanding, the false belief that Disney can just, flip a switch and turn everything back on. And that's not the case. I mean, I think look, they're already in full blown panic mode, 2 or 3 weeks into the shutdown. They're cutting salaries. They're borrowing billions of dollars. Every day the theme park is down. All the theme parks are down. They're losing, tens of millions of dollars. I mean, this is going to cost them billions. And the movies they had last year, a lot of them underperformed. I mean, people talk about the Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, you don't understand. They were expecting an Endgame level event with the Rise of Skywalker, and it came in barely over $1 billion. Aladdin actually made more money, and this movie would probably cost them $500 million to make and market. They're not rolling in the dough. The fact they dumped onward onto Voodoo like they did means that they're scraping the couch cushions at this point.
And, again, the executives are taking a pay cut. It's not to be nice. It's not to show solidarity. That's how they're going to spin it. It's because they legit, it's either you take a pay cut or you're out the door because we can't afford to pay you. I think we're going to see massive layoffs, different divisions of Disney. I think ESPN could be on the chopping block. I mean, ESPN, they're running freaking Disney sports movies now. They have nothing to run.
And WrestleManias, like old WrestleManias at night.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, this is like people, I'm like, God, wipe the freaking pixie dust out of your eyes. This is way worse than you think it is. Disney's going to put a good face on it. Of course they are. They always do. But this is probably the biggest crisis the company has been in decades, probably since like World War II. It's bad.
If things get as bad as they could be, they're going to have to, they might have to start piecing off some of these things, and that these valuable Marvel assets are going to be, are pure gold out there for somebody that's wanting to start up, get into streaming. I don't think AT&T would do it because they have DC, but Comcast, there's a lot of people with a lot of money that aren't fully invested just in entertainment, that are more diversified as far as communications and other things like that are going to be chomping at the bit, maybe to get some hold of some of these assets.
I think one of the first companies I think it could be on the chopping block. I mean, as far as getting chopped completely is Marvel Comics as a comics publisher. It just doesn't make sense, especially with everything else is going on in comics right now. It doesn't make sense. It's a very easy decision to just pull the plug on Marvel as a comic book publisher and then just license out your characters. There's been talk about this for years. We have contacts at Disney Publishing. I used to work, in Disney Comics, and every other property that Disney owns, they license those characters out. The Ducks and the Disney Princesses and any of the Pixar stuff, they license it out. Marvel's the only one they don't, because they basically bought the publisher. They don't need the publisher. And if comics aren't selling and there are no more comic shops, it's a very easy decision. We just pull the plug on Marvel Comics and we just make movies and stuff. And if people want to make comic books of Captain America and Spider-Man, they pay us to do it.
Yeah, it might be crazy. I'm actually expecting multiple publishers to fold up and not make it.
Yeah. It's bad. I mean, people don't realize how dire Hollywood. I just read last night that Lionsgate just laid a bunch of people off. Again, Hollywood was always kind of hanging by a thread, and they always, I don't think any of these companies have a rainy day fund out there because they think the money is going to keep rolling in. They don't have billions and billions and billions of dollars just, sitting somewhere that they can pull from. Most of them, it's very much a month to month thing. And we're seeing the panic it's caused just being shut down for a couple of weeks. And I had a friend of mine say last night, I had a conversation with him. He's like, we're just on Monday. We haven't gotten into the really, really bad effects yet of this shutdown. And this could have years of damage that needs to be undone. And the only thing I can think of that's even close to it, again, is, the disruption during World War II, where Hollywood was just thrown for a complete loop, not just because, they were shutting down productions and cutting back on stuff, but we had a lot of the actors being sent off to war, so you can't make movies if everybody's... Same with
sports. A lot of the best baseball players and stuff all went out and did their duty.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's a totally different thing, but it kind of is and kind of isn't. It's a major disruptor, and it's going to take years or decades even to rebound. And I think just everybody took for granted that things were always going to be fine, that they were not going to be disrupted that much, and that the money was always going to flow. And Disney is probably the guiltiest of that, because they just kept buying. And, they kept maxing out the credit cards, and now they lost their job.
Yeah, it's crazy times. I'd never would have thought I had seen it, but now that you look at things from a more strategic view, you step back and you're like, wow, they really just weren't diversified at all. They were really all in on one sector.
Yeah, and it's people were talking about the Apple thing. I actually kind of laughed that off too. I'm like, why would Disney sell themselves to Apple? There is a connection there, though. I mean, Bob Iger was on the board at Apple, and they had the Pixar connection and all that too. Steve Jobs and all that. So I mean, there is a connection. But then it was like, now that you look at it, it's like, well, they're the only entertainment company that's not basically propped up by big telecom company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Apple, I don't know. I mean, I if you would ask me 3 months ago, I would have been like, hell no, there's no way this is going to happen. I'm like, you know what? If this happened and Apple owned Disney at this point, they'd still be selling iPhones, wouldn't they? They'd still be selling apps in the App Store. They'd be selling music, whereas Disney's dead in the water at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy times, my friend. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Not really. I mean, not to be all doom and gloom, and I appreciate you having me on, Wes, but we're definitely just in the beginning of this. We don't know what the long-term damage is going to be. And we won't know for months and months and months. You know, I mean, as far as obviously beyond, you know, the health issues and the unfortunate, you know, loss of life and everything, but just what's going to happen to the entertainment industry is not going to look the same at all on the other side of this. And I think, as you and I were talking before we started recording, I think we're going to see a lot more people come up with their own lemonade stands. So we don't have as many big behemoths that could be taken out by something like this. You know, you can take some individuals out and maybe you don't get that particular show or book or, you know, whatever, but it's not like you're going to see these mega corporations just fold and you lose everything.
All right, Kneon, I really appreciate it, man. Not the best news in the world, but I do appreciate you coming and talking with me.
Hey, no problem.